Excellent time for Peter Brock.
That's the smoke, Peter Brock. We saw smoke there. Peter Brock has stopped. A wave of the hand to say, that's it, fellas, I've had it. So Brock is out, the leader is gone, at least Moffat in front from Fury. A service car comes over. Something happened. Same problem as occurred with Dick Johnson, we wonder. He's going to the bonnet. If we have the officials... Oh, that's better. If you've got another camera, don't bother moving trucks. He just lifts the plate that guides air to the carburetor to see what's happened. It's certainly a motor problem. I wonder if it was involved with this car, whether something happened, but I think not. I think it's just something that's occurred mechanically to the car. Whatever it is, Peter Brock certainly is out of contention. He's closing the motor. I don't think he's going to go back in the seat and drive it. He hasn't bothered to reclip it. He's taking a long walk towards Gary Wilkinson.
Exit Peter Brock after looking strong and in no danger whatsoever. In the meantime, Alan Moffat trying to shake off Stephen Harrington. Trying to put a lap on Harrington as he speeds through now, inheriting the lead in the Peter Stuyvesant Mazda RX-7 number 43. A long walk back to the pits though for Peter Brock through the sand dunes here at Cork.
In the Mazda.
So hot it smokes.
That's that same smoke we saw in the pits at Sandown, and I've since found out that the brake scoops are very close. The air scoops that take the air into the brakes catch fire.
It's a quick work by the marshals there, John. Peter Brock wasn't aware of it. He was walking away not knowing his car's on fire. The marshals saw it, raced up. That could have ended up in a pretty nasty situation.
I don't know that it would do any more damage than just burn the scoop, but I think it wouldn't have done the brake disc a world of good then.
Thank you, Evan. Well, for somebody who's not supposed to be interviewing car race drivers, I'm doing a lot of that today, working overtime, Brock.
Yes, I've got no complaints about interviewing racing car drivers, don't worry about that.
Hey, listen, what happened?
I think the gearbox must have split because it was still moving and the engine was still sort of running. Everything was running very hot, of course, having to extend the car to get by earlier on, then keep the pressure on because it seemed as if Moffat and I were doing fairly even sort of times. It's an unusual thing to occur, but that's motor racing.
At the start of the race, I mean, it was a sensational effort. I think you dropped back to 10th place with that spin off.
That spin?
Well, not
I went in
spin,
there without any brakes.
You slid from 10th place back to first place in 10 laps. Now, what does that say about the opposition?
Well, the problem is that our cars are very, very fast over 10 or 15 laps. We've got no doubts about that. But, of course, it's the ability to keep going. And one of the problems I was signalling to my fellows later on there is that I was having trouble with the rear tyres overheating, and I was slipping down fractionally in lap times, trying very carefully to get out of the corner, so loading up the left-hand rear tyre. But it was, I think I could have held Alan off, but it would have been touch and go, that's for sure.
Well, how do you assess what's going on out in the track now?
Well, I suppose at the moment now it's, to a certain extent, some working wounded. A lot of the cars are braking very, very early. Just watching now, they're putting the brakes on at perhaps the 200-yard marker, whereas normally you'd be going to about 140 yards. Tyres would be very hot, and there's also a small bit of smoke drifting out of a few cars. And it probably was drifting out of mine too, because my temperature was absolutely off the clock on the third lap, and I thought, well, it's a touring car championship race, you've got to go for it.
Okay, Rocky, thanks a lot. Evan Green, all yours.
Thank you to our special guest commentator, John Shepherd, for his expert comments. Commiserations to those who didn't finish, those who finished the race with their tail up, but their nose down and not moving. And we...
37 years old, father of 2 children, the second born only 24 hours ago. 3 times Australian touring car champion, and you can see that there's been a bit of a lapse there which he'd like to rectify. A brilliant performance at Bathurst, and the Repco reliability trial, which was a quite remarkable performance for a circuit driver. That's the man in 05 that the crowd really love as the cars form. Cheeky, impudent pup from Japan, and Peter Brock's team manager, John Harvey, who motorcycled up here on his 1000 Suzuki over the weekend, watching the progress. Peter Brock, a 1:12.8 in the first practice session this morning, and only 1 flying lap. But that hasn't been the most important part of your day.
No, it was a very incidental part of the day. I rushed straight from the circuit to the hospital where Beverly was in labour, and lo and behold, I happened to walk in 5 or 6 minutes before the actual birth of a new daughter this morning. So Bev and daughter are fine, and hopefully I can get back now this afternoon and concentrate on driving a racing car.
Well, congratulations. It was announced around the pit area, and there was a lot of I know, approval, and people were very pleased
Well, a
for you.
daughter, I was very happy to have a daughter, quite frankly, after all the males in the Brock family. But
Can you throw that sort of thing to the back of your mind now and get serious about racing?
yes, I think I've got a better chance of doing it now. I mean, I must admit, the first session, I left the hospital early this morning and came here. The session was underway. I did a lap. I really had to concentrate hard to try and do one lap without thinking about Bev and pending birth. And I knew when I did one reasonable lap that if today failed as far as not being able to get back to the circuit, at least I'd qualified in a reasonable position. But I didn't feel like pressing on with it. But right now, I think I'm pretty happy. I feel like getting out there and slaying them.
Is this the circuit for the big V8s for yourselves, Alan Grice and yourself, and for Dick Johnson and the Falcon?
Yes, I think that if a circuit is going to suit our cars throughout the touring car series, this particular one's going to be the kindest for our cars. It's simply because Sandown and Bathurst are not what we call tyre sensitive. A new set of tyres isn't a great deal faster than an old set of tyres, and as long as the chassis is pretty well balanced and the brakes are working well, you can go, and you drive it hard, you can go pretty well at Sandown. Whereas, say, Amaroo Park or Oran Park or Lakeside or a lot of those other circuits, we can only drive as fast as the tyres allow us. But here, I think we'll go pretty well.
People talk of the emergence of the small cars, of the RX-7 and the Bluebird turbos. Can a Holden Commodore win the Touring Car Championship this year?
Yes, I see no reason why I couldn't, but the way the point score is currently situated, and also the way the CAM's point score works, I think we've got a big problem on our hands trying to beat a Datsun Bluebird, which is classified as a 3-litre car. And all I know is that if it was Laurie Nelson and his Ford Capri, I wouldn't mind too much if he got some points for getting second outright, because, you know, he really deserved them. But when you go down the main straight against George Fury and his Datsun and you can't pass him, you think to yourself, somehow that's not a 3-litre car. So that does present a problem, getting enough points up. And then you're going to get the circuits which won't be kind to our cars because of tyres and the inherent problem we have of having too small a tyre for the weight and horsepower of the car. We'd like to see it proportioned out a little bit better, actually, and I think that's probably our aim.
We'll let you get back to the racing. Thank you, Peter Brock.
Thank you, Will.
Line under the bridge, and it's a no points for 2 rounds out of 3 for the 3 times champion, 1974, 78 and 80, out of the Symonds Plains round 3 of the Australian Touring Car Championship. So he remains on a dismal and very far distant 23 points, a long, long way from the series leaders.
There's Peter Brock out of his car.
0.73 of a second, the gap, first to second.
And that Grice has got an answer to that. Brock's car, you can see the smoke coming from the front end of it. Well, that's the brakes.
It's appropriately sponsored for what it's doing at the moment. So the point score is, as we told you, Fury leads on 72, from Grice second on 50, Moffat third on 48, fourth is Steve Harrington 39, and then a pile of people equal on fifth with 35, Murray Carter, Warren Cullen, Laurie Nelson and Dick Johnson. Our next ABC Motorsport telecast is next weekend, the Adelaide 3-hour motorcycle race from Adelaide International Raceway, but we'll be with you for the 4th round of the Australian Touring Car Championship from Wanneroo Park in Western Australia on the 24th of April, and before that, the Geelong. Great stuff, tremendous pressure, and it's a long time since you've seen this man in that car get out of shape. And look at Moffat, he had to hit him, didn't he? How did he get out of it? Brock backed it out, but how still did Moffat miss him? Oh my goodness. And how did he not spin it? How did he keep it off Fury? It was brilliant stuff. And he's bogged in the sand pit. Look, somebody made the comment yesterday that this track is one gigantic sand pit, and there it is.
We're halfway through the series, the 4th round of the 8-round National Series. Can you fight back?
Well, we've done a tremendous amount of work in the last few weeks, and we did find the car was very, very poor. I mean, I was giving the best shot, I can assure you of that, but everything we touched, everything we tried turned sour, and not all the year. I mean, people are forgetting, I think the first race I set the lap record and was leading before the gearbox broke. The second one I was on pole position fairly easily and didn't in fact lead that for a while until the car fell apart. It was only the last round that we really had great problems.
but I realised quite early on that the car just wasn't up to shape. But with the work we have done, I'm confident now that it is on the pace, and it's simply going to be a matter of battling it out with the rest of the guys.
Brock also points out that
Peter Brock running down the straight and being watched very keenly in the pit by his pit manager, John Harvey, himself a winner of numerous Australian titles, and who will be signalling to him throughout this stage and helping him decide tactics. Here he is with Drew Morford.
Well, a very interested John Harvey. Gee, Peter got a great start, didn't he?
Well, that was an exceptionally good start, probably one of the best he's done.
Now, he hasn't gone too well this year. Two failed to finish. Why all of a sudden the improvement?
Well, we, after the Simmons Plains race, spent a lot of time developing and testing the car at Calder, knowing that we had both Perth and Adelaide to do, a long way away from home base, and that's obviously paid off because the car's performing very well.
Is there a plan today, or is it just get out in front and keep going?
Well, the plan is to stay out in front as long as he can. The biggest problem that faces us, as faces other Commodore or even Falcon drivers, is the fact that the rear tyre performance will deteriorate as the race progresses. The plan was to build up as big a lead as possible early in the race, if that was possible. It's worked out that way, and I see now that Alan Grice and Alan Moffat are having a dice, which is probably slowing Alan Moffat up somewhat and allowing us to gain a bit of ground. So at this point in the race, it's worked out fine for us. We just hope we can make it to the end.
Brock is in. Brock, after your brake lock up at Wanneroo last weekend, you went fishing. Did you catch anything?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we got into quite a lot of fish, mainly Spanish mackerel, quite a few tuna and snapper and coral trout and all sorts of things.
Well, you've only just arrived at the circuit here. You must be fairly confident of the car's condition.
Well, I figured that the way it was at Adelaide, at Wanneroo, that it was very, very close to being right for Adelaide, because both circuits have corners where you require very good turning. They're both circuits with long corners. We did get the car turning in very, very well, and Larry had assured me that the car was steering well. I went out early this morning with just some old tyres on, did 3 or 4 laps, and I honestly came in and said, look, I don't think there's a great deal we can do to it. It's about as good as we're going to get it.
Well, you're a second under the record, but you're still 0.6 of a second outside Moffat. Do you have an answer for him here?
No, all I can assume is that Moffat won't be able to go that fast with race tyres. I only can hope that. His car has been very, very quick at this circuit. Then again, you know, off the line and the load of fuel and everything else, it seems to even things out a little, but it's going to be a very, very close affair, I'm sure of that.
Peter Brock from the whole Marlborough dealer team, what are your race tactics?
Get out in front and try and stay there.
Do you reckon you've got a chance with the two Mazdas?
Yes, I think that we've got a chance, and I don't want to discount Greg Hansford, but I don't think that Greg will give us the problems that Moffat will. I think that Moffat is going to be able to run very, very fast here today indeed, and I think my best shot is to get a gap if I possibly can, hope that he gets caught up in some traffic and try and hang on.
One of the comments that we heard from you earlier this week during practice session is that you feel the circuit's not as bad as it was as far as tyre wear. How much of a difference is that going to make to you?
Tyre wear isn't the problem, but it still gives you we still get an instability problem, particularly under the Dunlop Bridge, the very fast corner leaving the main straight, where the car does rock around a fair bit from the rear end, which is the tyre walls flexing. And then we get the tyre compound overheating. Now, it's not wear, it's more or less that it loses its grip. So that will slow us down for sure.
Okay, and looking at the other contenders in the field, how about the Datsun Nissan team?
Yes, well, I think that they're probably a little further away than they were in the last round, to be honest. I think that they may be 2 or 3 tenths off the pace. Now, if we all get in front and we start slowing each other down, and in fact my tyres go off a little bit, I think that we're going to have a big problem with George Fury. There's no doubt about that, because he seems to have the ability of keeping a car going fast the whole race as well.
You've got your back to the camera, you won't get any plugs that way. Congratulations, mate. You just couldn't catch him in the end.
No, I gave it everything last 10 or so laps and sort of sliding around a fair bit. It was going off the end of the straight, I thought, fairly well. A couple of places on the track I felt very happy with how the car was speeding along, but every time I caught him a couple of tenths, he'd sort of pull out a couple of tenths. So it's just there. But I still haven't caught up to you, Al. Anyway, it was a good race and it was a fast race, and I got a great start, and I don't think I could have expected to do much better.
I did put the word on Alan. I asked him how he felt about the approval for the 13B as far as the request for changes for next year or for the next season coming up and the endurance races. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know. Has it been approved, or hasn't it?
13B has been approved.
Well, it's news to me. That's a nice way to break the news to the major competitors, isn't it, eh?
Well, we break the news to the motor racing fraternity around Australia during our telecast.
Yes, well, unfortunately, the people most concerned financially were in the cars circulating at the time. But never be that as it may, it'll make Bathurst a very, very close race. There's no doubt about that. It remains to be seen what we can do at these type of races, which unfortunately about 90% of Australian racing is on fairly tight circuits. Just what we can do. But anyway, we'll be in there.
Well, we'll see you at Lakeside.
Thanks,
congratulations on your race.
Thanks, Ray.
Well, Peter Brock on the second row of the grid. No doubt we'll try at the start to get out there as fast as you can at the lead.
Yes, a bit of a disjointed practice session yesterday, and I was in the pits, unfortunately. At the time, the track just sort of tends to dry a little bit near the end, which meant we missed out in the front row, but
you've been getting good starts, though, haven't you?
Yes, I have been, and the track's looking as if it's going to dry out fairly nicely, although it's going to have some wet patches on it. And it's going to be important to sort of get a break, so I'll be looking very much at getting off the line quickly and trying to either establish a lead or being in a good attacking position. It's going to be an interesting race, though, I think, with the track the way it is, because there's going to be a lot more on car control probably than what there is if it was here a perfectly dry day.
How difficult is it going to be, the dice between you and the big Ford of Dick Johnson?
Hard to say, because we haven't been able to show our paces. I would have expected our car should have been faster than Ford around here, but Dick's done a bit of homework, and his car does seem to be working better this weekend than what we've seen it working. I mean, obviously the car to watch is Moffat's Mazda, followed by Hansford. I think that those two are going to be the problem cars over the race distance. Dick's car is going to be particularly fast over 5 or 10 laps, but I think beyond that it's going to probably suffer from the old problem of tyres falling apart, much the same as ours does, but ours tends to be about 5 or 10 laps later.
Looking at this as the final round of the Touring Car Championships and the amount of testing that you've done during the year, what's your next stage as far as preparing for the new homologations? Do you virtually give this car away and go to something new, or what?
No, you can put the bits and pieces onto the existing cars without too many troubles at all. We will be building a new car because unfortunately John Harvey's car, the old number 25 car, has been doing the brunt of the testing behind the scenes during the year, and it's getting to be a little bit sad and sorry now. It's been knocked around a fair bit. So we're building a new car, so John will probably use my car and I'll have a new car for the Endurance Series. But we'll be welcoming the break so we can instigate these new moves that Cam's have announced. The only problem is we don't quite know what they are at this stage, so we're waiting. But I think it'd be fair to say that Ford and Holden camps this weekend are sort of going through the motions, because we know it's our last run under the existing regulations which control a lot of suspension bits and pieces and wheels and tyres and goodness knows what. So this weekend we'll give it our best shot, but there's better things around the corner.
Well, Peter, congratulations on what was a magnificent display of driving under what must have been difficult conditions for you.
Well, it's very nice actually to have a race where the tyres don't give a problem and it's sort of every man for himself. And yeah, I really enjoyed that, because I thought I don't get to lap these Mazdas very often, so I'm really going to go for it today.
You got both of them?
Yeah, I got both of them. I saw Hansford in front of me near the end. I thought I'd better put him behind me too.
Well done, a tremendous display. You mentioned that the only thing wrong with the car was that there was no water in the windscreen washers.
Yeah, that's about right. I turned the wipers on before and tried to squirt it, get some. I thought I'd better leave well enough alone, but it's a bit difficult to see the last few laps, but it was okay.
Another great start, and it's been a good finish for the season for you, hasn't it?
Yes, we didn't start off too well the season. I don't know really why. I think we were trying to do too many things, and well, I mean, you always got to try new things, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But we certainly finished off with a flourish. I don't think we could have got the Holden to go any faster as it transpired. I think that we had to concede that the Mazdas were faster on the tighter circuits. This is the swan song for the car, in fact all the cars and their present guys, and I just wish it had rained all year.
Well, congratulations, Peter, and good luck in the Endurance Championships. Just talking about that, you must be at least a little bit more confident now with the new regulations coming through on that performance today as well.
Yes, particularly on the tighter circuits. Amaroo, Oran Parks, Service Paradise, Adelaide Raceway, they'll help us
Bathurst, we haven't had a problem anyway. But I think we'll have some even racing, but we've got a lot of homework to do, and we're calling on Larry Perkins and the boys here to really get some work done. In fact, I must thank them publicly too for the work they put in this year. After the dismal start, they really did very, very well.
Congratulations, and we'll see you in the Endurance Championships.
Shall do.
Well done, Peter. Of course, the man of the moment at the moment is Alan Moffat, who, although he finished down the field in this final round of the Australian Touring Car Championship, did in fact take the championship.